A CBS News poll conducted last month shows that the pocketbook issues, inflation, unemployment, are the major concerns in the eyes of the voters as Campaign 76 develops. So we've been talking to the major presidential candidates about those and other issues disclosed by the candidates, and the issues deals with former Georgia Governor Jimmy Carter. He's a peanut farmer, a Baptist deacon, an 11-year Navy veteran, and a nuclear engineer. Jimmy Carter also would be the first governor since Adlai Stevenson to win the Democratic presidential nomination. For almost a year now, the 51-year-old former Georgia governor has been doing nothing but campaigning for the presidency. He's gained recognition and is even thought to have a challenging George Wallace in Florida's March 9th primary. If he can do that, Jimmy Carter will be someone to reckon with. Where does Carter stand on the issues? He staked out a position to the left of center, certainly to the left of the man he has to beat, George Wallace. The way to end inflation, Carter says, is to commit the government to a program of full employment.
I think the main cause of inflation and the main reason we don't have a balanced budget, which is equivalent to inflation, is that we've got so many people. We've got 8.5 million people out of work that are looking for jobs, and we've got another 2 or 3 million that have given up hope of getting jobs, another 1.5 million on welfare that have never looked for jobs because they don't have the motivation or understanding. So the emphasis ought to be on full production, I think, in our country. The last resort, I would create jobs by the federal government, particularly in areas with very, very high unemployment, like young people. We now have a 25% unemployment rate among young people 18 to 21 years old. We have a 40 or 45% among black young people. And that's an area that cries out for some programs like the CCC or the WPA during the Depression years, when you actually provided jobs that were beneficial to restore the basic commitment to a work ethic in this country, which is that anybody that's able to work ought to work and ought to be given a chance to work.
Also on the economy, one of Carter's first priorities would be a complete reorganization of the federal government. He would eliminate overlapping layers of bureaucracy and institute what he calls zero budget agency, justifying every expenditure each year. We asked Carter what he could do about controlling crime.
That's a tough question, and I don't know of anyone who knows an easy answer. I don't think that incarceration in prison is the answer to it. I've never seen a rehabilitative result from long incarceration in prison. I think a streamlining of the court procedures, an abbreviation of the trial procedure, a sure punishment of a briefer period of time, administrative offices for the courts, an emphasis on prevention of crime in areas where crime is so rampant, with not building jailhouses but having more concentration of police officers, better lighting would help. But the overall only solution that I can see to the crime problem that would be substantive is in the reduction of unemployment.
Carter would not be very popular at the Pentagon, despite his military background.
I'm a military person. I was a graduate 11 years in the Navy, and I'm a submarine officer. And I've kept up as best I could with the status of the defense establishment. I would say that the most wasteful bureaucracy in Washington is in the Pentagon.
He would reduce U.S. troops overseas, reduce the number of officers. We've got too many admirals and generals, he says. He would work for a mutual reduction of atomic weapons to zero. And he thinks the benefits of détente have been... On the people's dissatisfaction with government, Carter would favor a strong sunshine law, opening up the government to the public. He would restore fireside chats, and he would insist that his cabinet members periodically go before Congress to answer policy questions. On energy, Carter would favor regulating oil and gas prices. He would emphasize a shift toward solar energy, and he would declare economic war against the Arabs if they ever imposed another oil embargo. Carter must make a strong showing against George Wallace when they meet in the Florida primary.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll meet Wallace not on the basis of personalities, but on the basis of issues that he himself has raised. Bureaucracy. I've done something about the unwarranted governmental bureaucracy in Georgia. I don't think he has in Alabama. Tax structures. I've done something about this in Georgia and have a very clearly defined position on tax equality and fairness, a very regressive tax structure. And I think he'd have to defend this position there. Services to people. equality of opportunity. These things I'll be willing to discuss with him or debate with him. I can't predict yet that I will beat Wallace in Florida. I will come in ahead of all the other candidates. And I will cut Wallace's lead down substantially below what it was in 1972.
A few months ago, anyone talking about a Southern governor becoming a major presidential candidate would be talking about George Wallace. Today, he could as easily be talking about Jimmy Carter. Incidentally, over the weekend, a straw poll was taken at the Florida State Democratic Convention, and the delegates representing the party leadership indicated they preferred Carter overwhelmingly over Wallace. But the electorate may have different ideas at primary time. The Federal Elections Commission voted today to allow corporations to solicit campaign contributions from their employees, but said the contributions must be voluntary and a potential for coercion. The commission said no superior should solicit a subordinate, and each employee should be told of his right to refuse to contribute without fear of reprisal.